Hello there, kia ora. Our media has a really important role in creating narratives within the public sphere so we can understand what it is that's going on with our politicians and government in general. It doesn't matter who's in power, part of the job of media is to ensure that we as an audience have the information to be able to critically look at something and go, right, this is what's going on and form an opinion. Those opinions can then go on and inform how media reacts to stuff and how they report things, which can actually go on and change the way that legislation works. It's like a great big ecosystem. But if we don't have all that information, it's impossible for us to be able to use our critical thinking skills to go through and form an opinion based on all the facts. We get the wrong information, it creates confirmation bias, it becomes a whole big thing. We saw some really interesting examples this week, though, of how media hasn't always been good at pushing back on government narratives that are coming out at the moment. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why media might do that. They might not have the resources, they might not have the time, they might just really want to make sure the government looks good. New Zealand Herald, I'm looking at you. So there is a bunch of reasons for this. Let me give you a couple of examples of what we saw this week. You might have heard about that $4 billion pothole fund that Simeon Brown announced. Not only is that $4 billion more than the money that they put towards those 13 life-saving cancer meds that they promised, it's a lot more than they actually promised during the election campaign. Because you know what? Pothole, bad. But this doesn't actually go to fixing what causes potholes. This is all about fixing the potholes themselves and road repairs and maintenance. But potholes are a complicated issue. But it's a really simplified issue to vilify someone over, which is what we saw during the last election campaign. Because remember, pothole bad. You see, what we saw in the build up to the last campaign was the National Party and ACT really jumping on the idea that potholes are a sign of everything falling to pieces. But the reality is, what causes potholes is not something this government is looking at. If we look at the research into what causes these kind of things, there's a whole bunch of issues around things like climate change. You know, every summer, Waka Kotahi undertakes massive amounts of road repairs over the summer period because it's dry and it's warm, and that's what they need to be able to do the work properly. Last year, 2023, we saw the wettest summer on record for the country, which means that those repairs get pushed back, that the work can't necessarily be done in a time fashion that they would like it to be, but also because water is a major element in what's causing potholes, they get worse. But don't worry, pothole bad. There's also issues around how many cars actually use the public transport systems that are out there, the roading networks, all those kind of things, all those feature in how fast a road degrades, but pothole bad. We're going to make sure that there's no funding for things like public transport or for using heavy transport on rail because, you know, that's what they do in the National Party. It's all about roads of national significance, but pothole bad, so we will patch the problems as they crop up and not deal with things like the climate change issues, which led to that wettest summer that we had in 2023, which led to some of those major pothole problems. There's also the fact that there's a whole bunch of hyperbole around how many potholes are actually a problem, with Waka Kotahi coming out in the past a number of times saying, look, it is nowhere near as bad as people are saying, here are the actual numbers. Well, that doesn't seem to stop people from saying, pothole bad, money fix. We also saw it over in the Hawke's Bay this week with the announcement that the funding for the mongrel mob scheme Kahukura was coming to an end. This is the scheme that was used to help get mongrel mob members off meth and out of that system because it's clearly damaging to the community. And don't get me wrong, gang association within the community is not ideal either. The police had serious concerns around gangs in the community, but they didn't have an issue with this particular program. This program went through a number of stops and checks through the Ministry of Health, Finance, Justice. It got signed off by a number of MPs before the Prime Minister signed off on it, and even the local police agreed that this was something that they were really interested to see how it worked out and supported the program. Although the Police Commission didn't. They weren't big fans. But that's all right, because Mark Mitchell only listened to one of those people, which was the police commissioner, who turned around and said in a press conference that it doesn't matter that the results are actually really good. He doesn't agree with that, so gang bad. The reality is, though, this particular funding was given out in 2020 and it's come to an end. So it's not like the government's sitting there going, we're cancelling this now. The funding has come to an end. There's a whole bunch of research being done into whether or not this was super successful and those markers of success and ensuring that this helped people get off this really horrible substance. We also saw a really fantastic piece that came out super quick on Sunday on Stuff. Shane Jones has said New Zealand is going to be open again for oil and gas exploration because it's worth $1.9 billion to our economy's GDP. I mean, the creative sector is worth, what, $16.3 billion to the GDP, but they cut funding for that. Weird how that works. And this is a really fun one because they literally printed just what he said without any pushback whatsoever. Like the fact that even under John Key's tenure, there was no discovery of new oil or gas deposits in the country. So they're going to let people back in to do searching for stuff that we haven't been able to find in the country for over a decade. But you know what? Money. Yay! We need money. Economy need help. Super simplified messages without any pushback become really problematic because audiences fall for it because they don't have all of the information to be able to critically understand what's going on in terms of big picture stuff. And we need to be aware of that. It's one of the reasons why it's so important that you get media from multiple sources. That story originally on the roads and the potholes, the Herald ran that almost verbatim, saying how amazing it was that Simeon's going to fix the potholes, whereas One News ran a story saying this is what the Greens said about the same problem and why this isn't going to fix it. They gave you an alternative perspective to be able to form an opinion. We all need to be aware of the fact that not all media is always going to be able to do that. Some media specifically don't. And we need to be, as audiences, much more onto it and picking up what these issues are and what's missing in the conversations that aren't being said. So make sure your media diet is wide and varied, that you're getting everything you can in there so that you've got all the facts when it comes to making your own opinions on what it is that's going on. Make sure that you're checking out media as well that actually knows what they're doing, because there's a few out there that definitely have problems. Wait, you're still here? It's over. Go find another video.